Welcome to your Author Branding 101 Day 2 workbook. So, what we're going to do in a lot of the workbooks as we go through branding is just write your why down over and over and over again. You cannot get too familiar with your why statement. It's something that should just feel so natural to you that you can say it word for word consistently without ever having to think about it. But in order to get that familiar with your why statement, you first have to write it down. So your very first step is to put down your why. Then what we're going to do is we're going to work through the 3 P's: positioning, personality, and promise. You're going to put down where you feel like your position in the industry is and how that positioning supports your why statement. You're going to talk about your personality, how you want yourself to be seen as an author, and how that supports your why statement. Then you're going to look at your promise. What is your promise to your readers, and how does that promise support your why statement? And as we're going through this, if your positioning, personality, and promise don't support your why, then either one of the 3 P's needs to be adjusted, or maybe you need to add some adjustments to your why. Maybe your why wasn't quite as clear until you looked at some of the more defined pieces. On page 2 of the Day 2 workbook, you're going to start off by ignoring the first bar, which says your story. Before we define what your story is, we want to figure out what is the background to your story. So you're going to talk about your credibility. So why you belong in the industry, what gives you the ability to write, why you feel like you should write. And then we're going to talk about how did you get to where you're at, so your history. And then we're going to talk about the value added by your story. So what does your story add to writing or to the author's life? And then you're going to put all that together into just a short story statement that further supports your why, and something that you can remember very clearly and very succinctly. The whole idea of branding is taking all the thoughts in your head. The whole idea behind branding is taking all of the thoughts that are swirling around in your head like a violent tornado, breaking them down and pushing them into small pieces that clarify your overall goal and make it easier for you to be an author. On page 3 of your author branding workbook, we're going to work on your image statement. So before we get to the top bar, again, we're going to ignore that and we're going to work through the gray buttons below it. First of all, I want you to think about what you want your visuals to represent. Do you want people to look at your visuals and think you're fun, you're flirty, you're outgoing, you're energetic, you're calm, you're peaceful, you're angry, you're scary? What do you want people to feel once they see you? Give me 6 words. Next, go to favorite colors. Put down your favorite colors that you feel like support your brand. And we'll talk a little bit about the color psychology in a future episode. And finally, then you're going to put down your favorite colors. So colors that you love. And in another module, we're going to talk about color psychology, and we'll see if your favorite colors actually identify with your visuals. And then finally, give me 6 words to describe your author avatar overall. So action words, adjectives, something that's a little bit different than visual emotion. These may go hand in hand, but there's a big difference between, like, your visual, you may want your visuals to be clean and modern, or you may want your visuals to be whimsical and childlike. But your 6 words to describe you as an author could be something like sweet, passionate, helpful, energetic. So your visual is really how you want things to look, and then 6 words that you want people to use to describe you as an author. Once you have that all finished out, go ahead and try to put together an image statement in 2 to 3 sentences that say what you want people to be able to say about you after looking at your visible presence. The final part to today's author branding notebook is the goal pyramid. So at the top, go ahead and define that focus goal that you want for right now. And then what we're going to do is break it down and break it down and break it down. So your primary goal is going to be supported by 2 other goals. And those 2 goals are going to be supported by 3 smaller goals. And those 3 smaller goals will be supported by 5 smaller goals. And you're probably going, what? So take this And in the first one, let's say you want to be a New York Times bestselling author. To be a New York Times bestselling author, you need to sell 3,500 copies of a book in 1 week. So your next two would support that sale. How are you going to sell that? So let's say major television publicity and commercial runs. Below that, to get major television publicity, you probably have to have a good press kit, good media kit. You need to launch your book 6 months before the actual release date in order to submit it to a lot of places. So there's all kinds of smaller goals that you might put into that goal. And then below you've got the 5 boxes, and you'll see that each of those 3 is supported by 2. So if we start on the left-hand side, your outer goal should be standalone. Your next goal should support the 2 items above it. Your third one is a standalone small goal that supports a third item, and so on and so forth. So basically what you're doing is you're taking your primary goal and you're breaking it down into small steps. And then what you can do is see where your author branding supports you in each of these steps to get you farther towards your goal. And as we're working towards this, I'm a firm believer in celebrating the small victories. So at the very bottom, always make sure to fill in small victories that you're doing. So whether that is solidifying your branding, creating a logo, getting good feedback on your logo, things of that nature, those are small victories that eventually add up to that top part. Now, every time that you accomplish a goal, highlight it, put a star by it, do something to let the world know that you have achieved a part of your branding goal. Maybe not the world, but even if it's just for you, give yourself something to celebrate. So this is the author pyramid, and in the forum, I want you guys to share pieces of this. How did your why change as you developed your 3 Ps, or did it? What is your story? Can you tell us your 2 to 3 line story? What is your image statement, and how do you think you're going to portray your image statement clearly? And as we work through branding a little bit more, we'll see if you get this right or not. And then I would personally love to know what your primary goals are. I would love to know what makes you tick as an author and what you cannot wait to achieve. It's my goal to help you get there, and the more that I know about you, the more that I can help tailor future programs to help you get there. So this is where you're going to go with author branding today. And if you have any questions, also please feel free to start a new thread in the forum and ask away.